tuning into a brand new episode of Brother Please Hear Me Out. And this is going to be the second go around at doing a live show, Brother Please Hear Me Out. Yesterday we had a few technical difficulties. I was literally talking for 17 to 20 minutes with literally absolutely no audio being recorded. I don't know how that happened because everything was working fine before I went live. But we're going to try this again. And as the saying goes, people say this is my first and last time doing this. This will most likely be my second and last time doing Brother Please Hear Me Out live, depending on how the stream goes. So let's go on ahead and get into it, man. Um, Today's episode is titled Black Americans Must Skill Up by 2023. And also, before I forget, thanks for tuning in. This is your first time tuning into this show on this channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I drop a new video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at tdhiphop media. And if you've been subscribed to this channel for quite some time now, show some love on the Patreon. That'll help put me in a position to be able to take TD Hip Hop Media and make it independent of YouTube. And that way we can become a legitimate independent media platform and not be reliant on YouTube. So with that being said, let's get into the topic at hand. What I wanted to talk about today is the retail apocalypse. Many people don't know what that is. Most people have never heard of that, especially in our community. Like I say on a lot of my Brother Please Hear Me Out shows, we're always late to the party when it comes to these kind of conversations. So I want to discuss and read a few articles off to you concerning what the retail apocalypse actually is. And I also want to read a very important article. And at that point, it's going to get a little bit lengthy with the reading. But it's a very important article titled Retraining and Reskilling Workers in the Age of Automation. And it's within this article that you're going to understand why the title of this episode of Brother Please Hear Me Out is Black Americans Must Skill Up by 2023. So now let's get straight into it. The retail apocalypse. What I'm going to read from here right now is coming from Wikipedia. All the links from the articles that I read will be in the description below. But as I read this article off, you have to really wrap your mind around the fact that the numbers that I'm going to be throwing at you. And when you multiply these numbers of all the stores that are closing down, the ripple effect is going to have on how many people are going to be laid off and the fact that we as a people need to be prepared for this. So let me get into that right now. The retail apocalypse is the closing of numerous North American brick and mortar retail stores, especially those of large chains starting around 2010 and counting onward. In 2019, U.S. retailers announced 9,302 store closings, a 59% jump from 2018, and the highest number since tracking the data began in 2012. As of January 31st, 2020, over 1,200 stores have been closed or scheduled to close during 2020, which can lead to over 14,000 store closures in 2020. I don't know if you're hearing me right now, but last year alone, 9,302 retail stores closed down. That is literally tens of thousands of people that lost their job last year. And of those tens of thousands of people that lost their job last year, a good chunk of them was from a good chunk of those jobs lost were hitting the Black community, because we heavily populate these kind of jobs, these lower level, low tier, low paying retail type jobs. Now, already as of January 31st, 1,200 stores have been closed or are scheduled to close. In the first month of 2020, the first month of the decade, we're already 1,200 stores in. And based on this trajectory, by the end of this year, 14,000 more stores will have closed down. We're literally talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs. And those are going to be the jobs that, like I said, primarily we're working. Those are the jobs that we're going to be working. So we got to be prepared for this. Now, I want to jump to the next article, and this article comes from USA Today, and it's titled Store Closings Pile Up with 1,200 closures already announced. Retailers face another grim year. The reason that I'm reading this off to you is because in the Wikipedia article that I was reading to you, it doesn't cite the source from where it got the 1,200 stores closing in the first month of January. It doesn't cite that source. So I want to make sure that I cite that source for you so you understand that this information is real and this is very serious and we got to take this serious. So let me get into this article from USA Today. And like I said earlier, the links for these articles will be in the description below. I strongly encourage you to read these articles in their entirety for yourself. Now let me get into it. The start of a new decade, the start of a new decade isn't offering much hope for retailers. Traditional chains are looking increasingly frail less than a month into 2020, with vacancies piling up and few near-term prospects for a turnaround. National chains Macy's, JCPenney, Papyrus, Express, and Pier 1 Imports, as well as other retailers, have collectively announced 1,218 store closures this year, according to the global marketing research firm Coresight Research. The fallout comes after a year in which retailers closed more than 9,200 stores, according to Coresight. Those included the liquidations of Payless Shoe Source, Fred's, Jamboree, Charlotte Russe, and mass closures by Family Dollar, Forever 21, Charming Charlie, Sears, Kmart, AC Moore, and GameStop. Now I'm going to end that article right there. Like I said, I strongly encourage for you to click the link in the description below so that you can read this article in its entirety for yourself. But now I want to get into the meat and potatoes of what this episode is really all about. The reading is going to be a little lengthy on this one. Bear with me. You need to know and understand what's going on out here as it pertains to all the jobs that are getting ready to be lost and what you need to do to prepare for these losses so that you can transition accordingly into what's going on right now, in which AI and automation are taking over all of our jobs. I discussed this so much on this channel or on this show. That's what this show is about. And I'm stressing for our people to take this serious. We have to take this seriously. We have to make sure that we are participating in the tech field and that we are on the verge of a new Black tech revolution. We have to make sure that the way in which that we are overrepresented in sports and entertainment, in music, we have to be overrepresented in the tech field because that field is wide open right now. There's money on the floor and jobs to be had. You just got to go out there and get it. Now, let me get into this article. It's from McKinsey & Company. The article is titled Retraining and Reskilling Workers in the Age of Automation. Like I said, this is going to be a little lengthy, but follow me. This is important. The world of work faces a transition. By 2030, according to a recent McKinsey Global Institute report, jobs lost, jobs gained, workforce transitions in a time of automation. As many as 375 million workers, or roughly 14% of the global workforce, may need to switch occupational categories as digitization, automation, and advances in artificial intelligence disrupt the world of work. Are you hearing me? Let me carry on. The kinds of skills companies require will shift with profound implications for the career paths individuals will need to pursue. How big is that challenge? In terms of magnitude, it's akin to coping with the large-scale shift from agricultural work to manufacturing that occurred in the 20th century in North America and Europe, and more recently in China. But in terms of who must find these jobs. Excuse me. But in terms of who must find new jobs, we are moving into uncharted territory. Those earlier workforce transitions took place over many decades, allowing older workers to retire and new entrants to the workforce to transition to the growing industries. But the speed of change today is potentially faster. The task confronting every economy, particularly advanced economies, will likely be to retain and to redeploy tens of millions of mid career, middle aged workers. As the MGI report notes, there are few precedents in which societies have successfully retained such a large number of people. Translation: a whole bunch of people are about to lose their jobs in the next 10 years, let alone the next 3 years. Let me carry on. So far, growing awareness of the scale of the task ahead has yet to translate into action. Indeed, public spending on labor force training and support has fallen steadily for years in most member countries of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, nor do corporate training budgets appear to be on any kind of upswing. But that may be about to change. Among companies on the front lines, according to the recent McKinsey survey, executives increasingly see investing in retaining and upskilling existing workers as an urgent business priority. And they also believe that this is an issue where corporations, not governments, must take the lead. Our survey, which was in the field in late 2017, polled more than 1,500 respondents from businesses, the public sector, and not for profit across regions, industries, and sectors. The analysis that follows focuses on answers from roughly 300 executives at companies with more than $100 million in annual revenue. Among this group, 66% see addressing potential skill gaps related to automation and digitization with their workforce at least a top 10 priority. Nearly 30% put it in the top 5. The driver behind this sense of urgency is the accelerating pace of enterprise-wide transformation. Looking back over the past 5 years, only about a third of executives in our survey said technological change had caused them to retain or replace more than a quarter of their employees. But when they look out over the next 5 years, that narrative changes. 62% of executives believe they will need to retain or replace more than a quarter of their workforce between now and 2023 due to the advancing automation and digitization. Excuse me, I'm going to read that sentence again because that is the critical piece to this article. 62% of executives believe they will need to retain or replace more than a quarter of their workforce between now and 2023 due to the advancing automation due to the advancing of automation and digitization. This is why I stress so much that Black Americans must take the lead within the fourth industrial revolution that has already taken place. We must take the lead in the tech industry. If you go into the archives, for those that have not listened to the show before, I have numerous episodes in which I discuss how you can get certifications in IT so that you can get you an entry-level position job and get your foot in the door in the information technology field, as well as numerous ways that you can learn how to code for free, and just a plethora of ways, from the most expensive, which is going to college, to what you can do for free, all the way down to, I believe the website is called, it's not Codecademy. Codecademy is free, but to a degree. At a certain point, if you want to advance your lessons, I believe you pay $20 a month. Khan Academy is also free. Khan Academy is also free. But it's time for us to skill up. We have to skill up. We cannot keep playing games out here, thinking that something is just going to change. And we got to take the initiative to skill up, period. And we got to skill up in tech. To date, there are 2.4 million STEM jobs that are going unfulfilled. And understand within STEM, 50% of those jobs are tech jobs. You understand? In an article that I read about a month or two ago that was timestamped in November, in that November article, they stated in the last 3 months, 918,000 IT jobs were going unfulfilled. 918,000 information technology jobs were going unfulfilled. So you got to go back into the archives to hear what I'm talking about in detail when it comes to this kind of stuff, and also when it comes to what you need to do in order to prepare yourself so you don't get left behind. Because like I've also discussed, by 2030, 30% of Black men will have lost their jobs to automation and artificial intelligence. Now let me carry on with this article, but I'm going to start it from the top of the original sentence again. 62% of executives believe they will need to retain or replace more than a quarter of their workforce between now and 2023 due to advancements in automation and digitization. The threat looms larger in the United States and Europe, 64% and 70% respectively, than in the rest of the world, 50%. And it is felt especially acutely amongst the biggest companies. 70% of executives at companies with more than 500 million in annual revenues see technological disruption over the next 5 years affecting more than a quarter of their workers. Are you hearing me? Make sure you're following along. Now, let me scroll down a little bit more to the next part of this article that I want to read out for you, and then we're going to close this out. But like I said, I strongly encourage you, please, 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 the link is in the description below. Read this article for yourself. Let's carry on. Now the bad news. Only 16% of private sector businesses, only 16% of private sector business leaders in this group feel very prepared to address the potential skills gap, with roughly twice as many feeling either somewhat underprepared or very underprepared. The majority felt somewhat prepared, hardly a call of confidence. Understand what I'm telling you right now. These companies aren't even ready for the shift. They're not ready. There aren't enough qualified people to fill up the positions that are available. Almost every company now is a tech company and or will be a tech company. So they have to change the way that they do business, but they don't. In this country, we literally don't have the manpower to fulfill the workload in tech. So what I just read to you explains that these companies don't even know what to do. They're not prepared. They don't even know really how to get prepared. They're struggling. They don't know what to do. Let me carry on. What are the main barriers? About 1/3 of executives feel an urgent need to rethink and upgrade their current HR infrastructure. Many companies are also struggling to figure out how job roles will change and what kind of talent they will require over the next 5 years. I'm going to read that again. Many companies are also struggling to figure out how job roles will change and what kind of talent they will require over the next 5 to 10 years. Some executives who saw this as a top priority, 42% in the United States, 24% in Europe, and 31% in the rest of the world, admit they currently lack a good understanding of how automation or digitization will affect our future skills needs. I'm going to read that sentence again. Some executives who saw this as a top priority, 42% in the United States, 24% in Europe, and 31% in the rest of the world admit they currently lack a good understanding of how automation and or digitization will affect our future skills needs. Now, I'm going to end that right there. I'm not going to continue reading on because this is a pretty lengthy article. But understand, man, please understand, we got to skill up. There are so many jobs available right now in the tech field, it's not even funny. And even outside of those jobs that are available right now, there are going to be significantly more opening up because these companies are downscaling. They're all going online as far as these retail companies are concerned, but it's really with everybody. And they don't even know how they're going to handle the transition into this fourth industrial revolution where everything is digitized, everything is automated, everything is online. They don't have the manpower, they don't have the skills in order to handle this change. They don't know who they're going to hire. They don't know whether they should retrain their employees. They don't know whether they should fire their employees and get new employees. They don't know what to do. So it's up to us right now to take advantage of this moment and skill up in the tech world. Like I said, go back to my past episodes. I talk extensively about ways that you can learn how to code for free. There's ways in which you can get entry-level jobs in IT, which is information technology, by way of certifications like your CompTIA A+, and then you can advance after that with your CompTIA Security Plus, CompTIA Networks Plus, so on and so forth. I have a whole episode. I strongly suggest for you to, this is episode 10, go back to episode 8. Go back to episode 8, and I believe that episode is called, let me look it up really quickly. Give me just a second. Episode 8. I mean, I could just say episode 8. It's right there. You'd know what it is. It's not even that deep. I'm doing too much right now. But episode 8 is titled "What Black Americans Must Do to Survive America." After listening to this episode, if you're listening all the way through and you haven't listened to episode 8, go back to episode 8 and listen to what Black Americans must do to survive America. And listen to that all the way through so that you can make sure that you're prepared for the shift that's already happening. We are already in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. And if we're not preparing ourselves now and getting ready for the shift that's already happening now, we're going to be left behind. Like I always say on every episode, where we are right now and where we are going to be as a country within the next 10 years is going to be night and day as it pertains to artificial intelligence and automation, blockchain technology, and cryptocurrency. It's going to be night and day. 2020 and 2030 are going, 2020 and 2020, 2020 and 2030 are going to look like two completely different worlds. Now, whether or not that changes for better or worse depends on you and not somebody else. I'm your boy, Tony Delarmy. I'm out of here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I drop a new video. Follow me on Twitter at tdhiphop media. Also, make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you get a direct text message whenever I drop a new video, but that also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And like I always say, most importantly, for those of you who have been following me for quite some time now, you have an appreciation for the information that I deliver to you by way of Not For Real and Brother, Please Hear Me Out, especially this show, Brother, Please Hear Me Out. Because like I've told some of you all before, this show, Brother, Please Hear Me Out, is 10 times, it's 100 times more important than Not For Real. Believe me when I tell you that. If you never listen to another Not For Real again, I wouldn't be mad at you. As long as you are still listening to Brother, Please Hear Me Out. You need to get this information. You need this knowledge. So show love on the Patreon, man. It's only $5 a month. The link will be in the description below. And like I said, that'll help put me in position to be able to become independent of YouTube, because the goal is to become independent of YouTube, not dependent on YouTube. I don't want to grow big on YouTube. I want to grow independent of YouTube so that TD Hip Hop Media will become a legitimate independent media platform where we don't have to worry about our voices and information being silenced. I'm your boy, Tony Delamy. Thanks for listening. Share this information. I'm out of here, man. Deuces.